The question is, has World War III already begun? The question is, how will it unfold? I'm Craig, a former British Army soldier, and today we're just going to be answering that question of has World War III already begun and how will it unfold? I've got a great post here by the Economic Times, and it's something I've actually been looking into for a while now. There's a lot of conflicts going on in the world, and there's a lot of aggression between nations, and you can see that there's a massive divide and a lot of unsettledness within the world at the minute with everything that's going on in the Middle East. You've got obviously the Ukraine and Russia war. You've got the alliance between Russia, North Korea and China, and then within the West. And then you've also got Iran, Israel, and everything that's going on with Hamas. And then recently, everything that's going on between the Syrian government, the Russians, and then the opposition rebels. So we've got a great post here from the Economic Times. World War III is already here, no mushroom cloud, but it's here when it's really begun. The global political and military landscape is shifting, with some experts claiming that World War III has already begun. Unlike the traditional notions of global warfare, there are no large-scale battles or mushroom clouds, yet the evidence suggests that the world is already embroiled in a form of warfare that is subtle, pervasive, and evolving across multiple domains. So technology is advanced a lot. Back in, you think World War One, World War Two, it was very obvious. You went into battles, it was guns v guns, artillery, then planes started to get involved, tanks, etc. And you just moved across the battlefield and sort of soldiers fought each other. That doesn't happen anymore. We've got cyber attacks, you've got misinformation being spread, you've got currency, economy, electrical supply, as well as sort of the major sort of conflicts when it comes to sort of fighting, the bombings, invasions, and all the gunfights. The hybrid warfare of today, a new form of conflict. The concept of hybrid warfare lies in the heart of assertion that World War III is already underway in today's conflicts. Battles are fought not just with physical weapons, but with a mix of cyber attacks and disinformation and economic manipulation. Tough and Sweet particularly point to Russia's involvement in Ukraine beyond an example of hybrid warfare, highlighting Moscow's use of paramilitary groups like the Wagner Group to destabilise regions across Africa, as well as its growing influence in space and cyberspace. Russia's efforts to use disinformation, including troll farms and AI-generated deepfakes, spread across social media to manipulate public opinion and sour discord in Western democracies, further complicating the landscape of this new warfare. So cyber is a massive one. You can even think back to the first Trump election where they said there was sort of Russian involvement within that. There's been talks of possible Russian involvement in the Georgia election that's just happened. And we also know that he is constantly trying to attack us or sort of see what our weaknesses are when it comes to cyber response time, what the economy needs like. You've got BRICS. Is they're trying to make this sort of more well-known within the world in the economy. They're trying to sort of weaken the dollar so they could sort of have their own sort of BRICS currency to start sort of trading oil and other imports and exports. So don't just think guns go bang, countries get invaded, missiles, rockets, artillery. Does not mean that sort of the world is in conflict, because we are in conflict. We're constantly coming under attacks, or they're constantly sort of battling off attacks. And most of sort of the civilian population just don't know about it, because today, okay, yes, technology is really good to do attacks, but our defences are just as good as well. So you've got the kinetic warfare, the physical battlefronts. While hybrid tactics dominate the global stage, certain regions are still experiencing intense physical warfare. Nowhere this is more apparent than in Ukraine, where the war continues to escalate and the toll on both civilians and soldiers has been catastrophic. We know it's in the hundreds of thousands now of casualties, and it's sort of contained within Ukraine borders, sort of encroaching into the Russian borders as well, with the Kursk region and the Atakams and Storm Shadow attacks that they've had recently. It's not even just that. You've got what's going on in Ukraine, in sort of Israel, Gaza, Iran. It started off with Hamas attacking Israel, Israel attacking back, which are still sort of currently going on with. Then obviously with Hamas being sort of funded and led by Iran, Israel then sort of took out some Hamas leaders within Iran. Iran retaliated, Israel retaliated, and then there was another retaliation. So that's been a back and forward. We've known that Israel going into Lebanon, and then you've got sort of the unrest within Syria. So at the minute, there is a lot going on. You've also got China and Taiwan, with a lot of experts reckon that sort of China's going to invade Taiwan by the end of the decade. So if Ukraine and Russia sort of doesn't calm down, Israel, Iran, Hamas, Lebanon, that doesn't calm down, Syria doesn't calm down, and then China invades Taiwan, this could have a massive effect on sort of Western democracy and Western economy, which then could get us involved. What also could escalate this, obviously Ukraine, Zelensky's asking for NATO membership, which is something that was promised wouldn't happen, and sort of President Putin is massively against. If that possibly does get put forward as an offer, we don't know if it will, then that could escalate things and start to sort of spread the conflict outside of Ukraine borders. We've also got the ATACMS and the Storm Shadows being used within Russian territory, and Putin obviously once again warning the US, the UK and the West that if this continues, he will retaliate with quite a bit of mass destruction. The other one is obviously nuclear. Most people think this is sort of highly unlikely, but this threat is still there. It's still being warned, okay? So that's sort of another issue. But if you're looking at most sort of experts at the minute, they are currently saying that we are in World War III. It's just because of technology, because of advancements, world wars don't look like they used to. World War II was very similar to World War One, but different in its own ways. You start getting sort of spies, encoding, encryption when it comes to communication. Then planes start getting more involved. And then we've sort of carried on from there. And then obviously the biggest one is just cyber now. People don't realise how dangerous cyber attacks are. Everything is controlled via technology. Everything. The people could not last without Wi-Fi. The government couldn't last without Wi-Fi, which is all controlled by power, which a lot of it now is just controlled by technology. So if that gets attacked, our power supply goes out, we go into complete darkness, we then struggle to sort of survive, communicate, and carry out everyday sort of tasks. A lot of the military couldn't survive. You know, we're now moving to the point where cars are going to be sort of electric, planes are moving to electric, so you then start losing transportation. You think 2030 they want net zero, and onwards you start bringing in electric cars, they need power in, your power supply goes. You know, we're not saying World War III is going to massively sort of advance in the next couple of years, but this is something that's happening over the next decade. The British sort of chain of command, the higher command have been saying, you know, we are now in a pre-war state. We had a bit of a quiet phase. Yeah, you had the Gulf War, 90s were pretty quiet, even though we're sort of in Ireland. Then you had Iraq and Afghan, that sort of died down. We went into a post-war. We're now pre-war. They are expecting some sort of physical conflict. They're constantly battling it out cyberly, but they are expecting some form of physical conflict. We just don't know when it's going to happen. Is it going to be in the near future in 1 or 2 years? It is likely, especially if Ukraine and Russia can't come to sort of a peace deal and it starts to spread out. China invades Taiwan. Israel and Iran and Hamas starts to spread. There's a lot going on in a minute that could ultimately, you know, form into a massive physical world war. But at the minute, it is cyberly. It's social media, misinformation, trying to sort of hack into our networks, having sort of effects on our election, okay? All this is attacks. They're attacking. They're trying to react to us. They're trying to figure out our response time. So currently, I believe we are sort of at the start or within World War III. Maybe not as far in as what sort of some of the experts are saying, but we definitely are at the start of it. And we have been in a pre-war phase for the last 2 or 3 years. Just where it's going to go from here, we don't know. It all depends on whether they can sit down, talk it out diplomatically, or whether someone's going to sort of advance the physical conflict and then it's going to bring the rest of the West in, North Korea, China, Iran. But that's where we're currently at. I believe we are at the start or just within sort of a World War III. It just looks different to how it looked sort of, 70, 80, 100 years ago now when you look at World War One. But it's something we definitely need to be cautious of. We need to be careful of. And everyone needs to sort of just be wary that, things could escalate. But let us know what your thoughts are on this. This is where we're currently at. I'd be interested to know what you've got to say. Please comment below. Remember to like, share and subscribe. And if you want to become a channel member, click that join button. You get free shout outs, loyalty badges and free merch. And I'll see you soon.